What is up, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. So at the end of March, I will be attending my first retro video game convention of 2024 as a vendor. Now, this is a smaller convention, less than 50 tables, but I was quite shocked at how long it took to sell out those less than 50 tables. And it really got me thinking, what is the future of retro video game conventions? And is this something that you should be concerned about? Well, let's talk about it. So like I said, this is a smaller convention, only 48 tables to be exact. So when the tickets went on sale on December 11th, I thought it's something that I better jump on sooner rather than later, because you just never know. I honestly thought that it would sell out in like 2 weeks tops, but after a month, there were still over 10 tables left. And then on February 8th, they announced that all 48 tables had finally sold out. So it just got me thinking, like, it took nearly 2 months to sell only 48 tables. Is the interest in these retro video game conventions starting to fade, or was it the venue, or what are the reasons for this happening? Now, just to give you some backstory, there was a larger convention that was held at this same location back in July of 2023, and it was kind of a shit show. Now, I don't want to go into a lot of detail about what happened. I realized that there were some things that were out of the organizers' control, but it wasn't a good day. And whether you were an attendee or a vendor or a guest, it just was a very unpleasant experience. So it's very possible that that situation kind of tainted this venue and people just decided, well, I don't want to sell there anymore. I myself was kind of soured by the whole thing, and I said that I wasn't going to sell there. However, the market has changed. I have inventory, and I don't want to wait another year or a different convention down the road to sell this stuff at, because again, I just don't know if I can maybe make that convention. I also don't want to pack everything up in my car, drive to another state, and pay higher table fees and hotel costs. It's just not something that appeals to me. But I was concerned at why it took so long to sell those 48 tables. And is it happening not just in my state, but at retro conventions all across the country? Now, I don't have any data for these other conventions, especially for this year. I don't think there's been too many so far. I don't have any data for the previous years for these larger conventions like PRG and Too Many Games, stuff like that. I really don't know if it was an up year. I have no idea about that kind of stuff. But it just got me wondering if this is something that could be on the decline in the next 10, 15, 20 years. People my age are starting to kind of age out of these conventions. And I just wonder if the generation behind me will have the same interest in the future. Will there be as many of these conventions? Now, I know there's new ones popping up all the time, but will they have the same success when the retro video game market just isn't what it used to be? Now, just to give you an example, my oldest daughter is in her late 20s. I recently asked her if she wanted to go to this 80s Fest convention that was in St. Louis, and she was like, no, it's gonna be just too expensive. And I said, well, what do you mean, like the entrance fee? And she was like, no, just everything in general, all the vendors. So even at her age, she understands that vendor prices are just so high. Everybody's asking so much. I think that's something too that a lot of people are starting to realize. It was something that was very apparent at the last convention that I sold at in July. People kept coming up to me and I'd ask them how things are going, and everybody said the same thing. The prices are just too high.
I can't believe how much you charge for this shit.
And nowadays, when you can buy the same thing on eBay or Facebook and you can touch it, again, if it's on Facebook, eBay, you've got buyer protection. If I can save a considerable amount of money, I'm just going to buy it through eBay. I'm not going to buy it just because it's right in front of me, but this person has it $50 more than what it should be priced at. Now, I could be wrong, and it's possible that this decline in physical media could have an opposite effect. I mean, it's possible that in 10, 20 years that Switch games could be very popular because, cartridge-based games are much more reliable than disc-based, and maybe in 20 years, servers will be shut down, so somebody will have some nostalgia for a game that they maybe had digitally, and now they want a physical copy of that game. I could honestly see that happening. It's really hard to say, but I do kind of see this maybe going in the direction of the model train and railroading community that was really big back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. I mean, people were really into that, but they just kind of got really old, and maybe they didn't pass this down to their kids or grandkids, and it just slowly started to fade away, and just the popularity just isn't what it used to be. I think you could say the same thing for the baseball card and the comic book scene. I think that all of those, the trains, comic books, baseball cards, there are always going to be people that are interested in that. But I think the convention scene has just kind of declined and people just aren't as interested in it anymore. And will this retro video game scene be the same way? I think in the past couple of years, we've seen video game conventions really hit their peak, but I just wonder if in the coming years, if we're going to see those numbers trail off. Now, my girls, for example, they were raised on video games. They've been watching me play ever since they were little, pretty much with the N64 and on up until they got their own handhelds, probably with the Game Boy Advance and the DS and the Wii and so on. But, you know, I took my youngest daughter to one convention, and even though I think she somewhat enjoyed it, they've never been back since. And I've asked both of them if they want to go to one, and they just don't have any interest. They're like, nah, we don't need that. I mean, they have nostalgia for retro video games. They play their Switches when usually the newest game comes out, whether it's a Pokemon or like a Super Mario Wonder, but they just don't seek this stuff out like I did. They don't have a fondness for original hardware. Well, I just wonder if that next generation of kids are all going to feel that same way. You know, we know what Pac-Man is, but we just don't feel like playing it anymore. There's just other things to them that are more important. They want to work their way and try and get a house, or just for paying their gas in their car, things like that. They're really focused on their careers. Now, that could change in the future, but I doubt if they've not been to a convention or been to only one their entire life and they're in their mid-20s, they're not going to in the future as well. And I don't think they're going to, if they have kids, get their kids into that, because it just won't be a part of their life. Now, your kids could be different, but that's just kind of the way it is with mine. This is something that I just thought about because I am getting older, and each year that goes by, I get less and less interested in collecting or being a vendor or just going to conventions in general. Now, I always have fun at these things. You know, you meet people that you haven't seen in a while, you meet new people, you get to hang out, but I just can't see myself doing this in my 60s and 70s. And, you know, I'm just going to have more important things to do at that time in my life. And honestly, that's not that far off.
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
And I can't be the only person in that same situation. Now, that doesn't mean I won't be gaming in my later years. I could see myself still doing that, but I just don't see myself 15 years from now hanging out at conventions. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. What I want to know from you is, do you think the interest in retro video game conventions is declining, or is it the opposite? Is attendance up? Are venues getting bigger? Or is this something that we should even be concerned about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, if you learned something or you liked the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and turn on that notification bell so you know when I upload videos like this one. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.